Hello everybody, bonjour tout le monde. I hope you're very well. My name is Jimmy Smith. I am the owner and founder of West London Wine School, South London Wine School, and a cool wine bar called Streatham Wine House, all in London in the United Kingdom. Welcome to another Grape Varieties session. This is on Carmenere, and this is our advanced version. So this is ideal for those of you studying your WSET Level 3, your Level 4, and equivalents around the world. So if you are looking for a more basic introduction, maybe you're starting your WSET Level 2, please check out our intermediate version of the Carmenere video. Great, let's rock and roll. So a little bit of history, first of all, with this grape variety. The grape variety is a very old style, and it's from the Gironde. Okay, so this is our Bordeaux area, and it was actually first mentioned in the late 18th century in Bergerac, which is the area on the Dordogne next to the Gironde. So we have some old documentation of this. It was actually under the name Carmenere. There's a Y thrown in there for good measure back then, but of course, very similar spelling. The etymology of it, so its name, could be from the dark red color, which is this carmine kind of color, which means crimson. And that could be due to the grape, but more likely the leaves, which turn this kind of crimson-y color at the end of the year, and then they fall off. A natural cross, so the variety is a natural cross of the varieties Cabernet Franc and Gros Cabernet. So Cabernet Franc, of course, a very key grape variety in the southwest and going into the Basque areas. And Gros Cabernet as well, a variety which is not cultivated anymore. But Gros Cabernet is of an old variety of the Gironde, of the Tarn as well, where it's been commonly confused with the Cabernet Franc of the past. And Gros Cabernet is likely to be a Fur Cervidou and a Hondaribi Belza, which is the red variety from around San Sebastian in Chacoli landscape, today making a few Chacoli reds and rosés. If you taste the Chacoli reds and rosés and you taste Fur Cervidou, all of them are very inherently green styles, so is Cabernet Franc. So it gives you an idea of the heritage and therefore the sort of genetic aromatics you're likely to get with Carmenere. It will be green because of all of its parentage. It is a half-sibling of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, so it fits firmly in that part of the family tree as well. Also green-tasting red varieties. And sort of rediscovered in Chile in 1994. What happened in Chile is that a lot of grape varieties were imported into Chile with a lot of migration, and the variety Carmenere looks exceedingly similar to Merlot on the vine as a grape formation and a leaf formation as well. The ampelography is quite difficult to tell these two apart. So many farmers within Chile just believed they were dealing with Merlot, and Carmenere actually wasn't officially recognized by the Chilean government until 1998. So it's actually quite a recent development of this country. So now they have nearly 10,000 hectares been identified as Carmenere, and that number is sneaking up. Identical to Cabernet Grenache in China. So we know that there's a fair bit of production out there now, about 1,300 hectares. So similar to that one, they thought it was Cabernet Sauvignon, I think, to begin with, but it is Cabernet Franc rather. It is Carmenere, this variety. Carmenere then is late ripening. It is normally around 4-ish weeks, in China about 4 or 5 weeks after Merlot, probably about 3 or 4 weeks elsewhere. So very late ripening variety means you need long sort of Indian summers to fully get that ripeness of Carmenere. Vigorous but not too fertile, not huge volumes will come from this. Due to the budding being less, the basal buds being quite low. So therefore, as a result, you will not get large yields from this. Also quite poor fruit set, so that is couleur, that is the shedding of the blossom towards the flowering stage, which means you get really varying and inconsistent yields. a major reason why this variety has not found a footing in Bordeaux, where it can be very windy, which promotes poor fruit set, and it can be wet, which also does the same. Small bunches, though, when they do form, of medium-sized, deep bluish berries. We talked about Couleurs already, but also susceptible to problems with root infestation, nematode, etc. On sandy soils, certainly in Chile, it's said to produce quite elegant and aromatic wines, which certainly people are moving towards. And on clay soils, slightly more aggressively powerful and richer styles. If there is a bit of rain at the harvest time when grapes are being picked or just before, it is a worry because as it can increase the metaoxypyrazines. Now, the metaoxypyrazines are classic, we just call pyrazines. These are the compounds which give very distinctive green pepper, very sort of asparagus, green notes in red wines and white wines. So more of this over dilution towards the harvest time will increase these characteristics. So that is something that needs to be carefully looked at. If it does rain, of course, they'll need to evaporate that water before picking. The leaves turn a crimson or carmine color. That's where Carmenere takes its name from before dropping. We mentioned that earlier. And if grapes are picked a little bit underripe, that will cause more of those metaoxypyrazines as well. So that's those green notes. So riper picking is definitely the way forward to get more fruit richness and black fruit and hints of mint and green notes, but not big amount of green characters. Now, Carmenere in the winery is more often blended, certainly with its half siblings, Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon, which it came from in Bordeaux, of course. So it's very similar kind of blending partner in Chile. There are, though, some brilliant producers now focusing on single varietals. Even Errázuriz is one of these, where they do single vineyards, single varietals on these sandier soils or clay-based soils to get more structure or elegance or aromatics out their wines. It is really a grape of discovery at the minute for Chile, and really their grape now, as nowhere else, really grows it significantly apart from China. Quite extracted, lots of cap management here, a lot of color. It's often desired to have quite a lot of anthocyanin color in the wines and flavor, of course, from those skins. They do a lot of controlling with Carmenere because of those unwanted, quite strong green metaoxypyrazine characters. There are certain yeast strains that can be employed. So this is inoculated yeast that can curb those herbaceous notes. So you will find that happening. And new oak as well will be used. Oak or new oak, but heavily toasted, which will often give this very chocolatey roasted coffee characteristic, which is something quite classic across many Chilean red wines, including Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. The key locations of Chile, so we are looking at around just over 9,000 hectares of vines, which is quite significant because there was 0 of this classified in 1994, but of course many of it was Carmenere. It was just identified as Merlot. And very famous places here, we are looking at the Aconcagua zone. So that's north of Santiago, going from the mountain to the coast. We'll find some. The Maipo, which is around Santiago, quite famous for it. The 3 C's of the Central Valley, that's Cachapoal, Colchagua, and Curacao. Those 3 together tend to make a lot of blended varietals, and some of it is a little bit more mass production. And then there's some older vine examples in Morlaix, more down towards the southern section. China, as mentioned, does produce around 1,400 hectares of this grape variety as the Garnished variety, as we mentioned a little bit earlier. Now, what is it like, Carmenere? We've gone through this a little bit. But let's go through it again. So if it's a bit underripe, expect things like this bell pepper, green pepper note, or asparagus-y sort of green edge to them, tomato stalk as well. You can find them on the kind of cheaper Carmenères that you may pick up sort of £6 or £7 in the United Kingdom. If it is ripe, though, you'll tend to get more of this kind of black fruit, black berry, black plum characteristic, and then this kind of pepperminty note, maybe a little bit of eucalypt as well. If it is oaked, and we'll see oak here, you may get this vanilla edge, and if it's heavily toasted oak, coffee and chocolate notes can be found as well. And that is becoming more increasing with these single varietal style Carmenères, where you've got this chunky, rich note with heavy polished oak characteristic to it. The wines, in terms of their characteristics, the wines will have sort of medium to high acidities. A lot of that is manipulated. Quite high tannins, quite ripe. Certainly in Chile, if they do manage to ripen those tannic structure, quite high alcohols and full-bodied behind Carmenères, the single varietals. Great. So that is the end of the advanced look at Carmenère. I hope you've learned something here today. And if you have any comments or questions, please get in touch with @WineWithJimmy. That's my Instagram and Twitter handle. That's mine. @West London Wine is my main wine school. That's West London Wine School on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. South London Wine as well, which is our secondary school in Streatham and Greenwich. And then our cool bar, Streatham Wine House, with over 350 wines on the list, lots by the glass and caravan. Real fun place. So please do come and see us for a class, come and see us for a glass, and come and see us for a bottle if you are next in London. I've been Jimmy Smith, over and out. Thank you.